Hello and welcome to another edition of Motor Cars Enthusiasts. Right off the bat on today's show, Ferrari is in the news, and for something pretty interesting, because there's been some reports out there. They're working on a sport utility vehicle. According to the folks over at Car Magazine, who talked to someone close to the situation, who confirmed that they are working on a sport utility vehicle. Now this got me thinking. The last organization I thought would actually build an SUV might be Ferrari. But maybe the more on closer thought, you know what, there's been a slow push to this over the past several years. Think of the FF when it first came out. How long has it been since Ferrari built a 2+2? And wouldn't the modern day person who owned a Ferrari, maybe a LaFerrari, a 488, maybe even an F12, even an FF, possibly want a sport utility Ferrari to actually take the kids or the grandkids on the school run? Might not be a bad situation. Now, before you get your pitchforks out and your torches and head to Ferrari to burn this place to the ground, realize that this is not official coming out of Ferrari as of yet, but where there's smoke, there's fire, so we'll probably hear a whole lot more about this very soon. Next up on the list, here's a photograph of the first ever Model 3 to come off the old assembly line. In fact, this is Elon Musk's personal machine, which I'm assuming they're going to try to keep it a little bit close to the chest, especially to do a little bit of R&D work and maybe to polish off some of the rough edges. Tesla's got an ambitious goal of actually building 20,000 units per month. I'm thinking they're going to get through these first 400,000 pre-sale vehicles as soon as they can. In fact, Tesla's early reports are that they're going to have vehicles getting in to customer hands by late July of 2017, so just in a couple of weeks' time. And Tesla's doing everything they can to help these new vehicles, there are going to be a lot of them out there on the road, keep the service work up, because they're ramping up their service department, building 100 new service centers all across the country, along with 350 new service vans and 1,400 new service technicians that are going to be able to keep your Model 3, Model S, Model X, or even the Roadster in top working shape. So it's going to be an interesting time over the next several months to see whether Tesla can stay up with this goal. One interesting thing they're going to do with this production deal, they're going to build the simpler cars first, meaning the cars that have less option list on them. That way it keeps less things from going wrong. So maybe not a bad situation, especially being they didn't do a test production run, at least as of yet. So it'll be interesting times over the next several weeks. Next up on the list, well, the crystal ball gets a little bit clearer on just what exactly Aston Martin and Red Bull have been working on in this little world-conquering Valkyrie. And we've got a lot of more information about this machine, even though a lot of this has already been said. The first thing is you're going to see a lot closer picture of what this car is going to look like production-wise. Obviously, the thing's got a wiper and the full interior, but they're claiming this thing's only 95% done. There's still a lot of work left to be done, especially on Adrian Newey, the head of Red Bull Racing, or at least one of the big engineers at Red Bull Racing, has been working a lot on the aero work side of things. Claiming this vehicle could reach upwards of 4,000 pounds of downforce, aka 1,816 kilograms of downforce at its top speed, and they continue to work on that downforce right now. Now, the early reports end up being true. The 6.5-liter normally aspirated V12 from Cosworth will be the lump of choice out back of this vehicle. And it's an interesting situation. There was talk of doing a turbocharged 6-cylinder in this vehicle, but that V12 is so naturally smooth running, the fact that they're going to bolt this engine right up to the bulkhead, they need the smoothest running vehicle, or engine that is, basically because this is going to be a road-going machine, and at least 150 of these are going to be road-going machines. That means that this thing's supposedly going to make 900 horsepower, sound like a vintage Grand Prix car back in the V10 days. In fact, this Cosworth engine is pretty close to the engine that was actually run in the Williams Grand Prix team back in 2010, even though it would have been a V10 at that time. Now, not only is this V12 going to have 900 horsepower, but there's going to be another 130 horsepower coming from the KERS, the Kinetic Energy Recovery System, meaning this car is going to be a 1-to-1. We're talking about this vehicle weighing only 1,000 kilograms, aka just a touch over 2,200 pounds, and obviously making over 1,000 horsepower. The interior, on the other hand, is pretty doggone sparse, as it only has 3 screens and obviously the steering wheel to deal with. All the buttons and switches and knobs are on the steering wheel itself. The 3 screens, the center one being a touch screen, is going to handle all the inside information, being the RPMs and the speed and the life vitals of the engine and the KERS system. The 2 outside screens are actually the rear view cameras that are going to be taking the place of actual rear view mirrors that are tucked away outside of the airflow because they want to keep this thing as clean and as downforce centric as possible. In fact, a lot of that downforce and a lot of the planning from Aston Martin and Adrian Newey and the group, been a lot of fighting over some stuff apparently, because obviously Aston Martin wants to make the most beautiful car they possibly can, and Adrian Newey just wants to build this thing as the most efficient Formula One car for the road that's ever been built. Obviously, from this photograph, you get to see the massive rear diffuser under this machine, which is still in the works. That's a lot of the things that's going to be changing. I'm talking about the overall bodywork may be completed as we speak. The massive gull-wing doors are an interesting situation because ingress and degress is going to be a little bit difficult inside of this vehicle because the seats, actually the padding itself, is laid right onto the tub of the chassis itself, meaning there's only a handful of options as far as that, and they're going to actually doing some measuring up of you. They claim that a lot of people can fit inside of this car, that it's quite roomy, but I'm assuming this fat bald guy could probably fit nowhere inside of this machine. Also, the Formula One style seating, meaning your feet and your knees are going to be upwards around chest level with your rear end sitting quite low. That's the reason behind the massive gull wing doors, because you pull your feet out of the footwells, stand straight up into the car to actually ingress and degress into this vehicle. Obviously, one of the other things you see is the new wheels. They're actually working on some brand new wheels that are going to be on this machine that can evacuate as much air as possible, as clean as possible, because you're going to be taking in a lot of air through the air ducts cooling the brakes. There's another interesting situation too. As powerful and as high performance this machine is going to be, Adrian Newey doesn't really plan on taking this car and going after like the 918, the P1, or even the LaFerrari as far as lap time is concerned. They're not even really concerned about a Nürburgring lap time, claiming that a modern day Grand Prix circuit like Silverstone is a way better test because they want to go right head to head, claiming this vehicle will be able to do lap times of like a Formula One car. Again, they're only going to build 125 road versions of this thing. 25 of them, 25 more at least, are going to be track day only machines. And early reports, somewhere around 2.5 million euros. It's going to be pretty expensive. Production is supposed to start up in the back half of 2018 with people actually getting their hands on these automobiles in 2019. So, a whole lot more to learn about this machine over the next several months, especially once we finally get to see a final production version. Last up on the list, we haven't heard about Lucid Motors in some time, but apparently they were doing some high-speed testing of this machine when they turned it up to 11, and this vehicle achieved a top speed of 235 miles an hour. Now, they were testing a lot of things, that being the suspension system, downforce settings at high speeds, along with the cooling of the machine as well. They said a lot of things were learned and thought that maybe even this being an EV and this top speed being way out there, thinking this vehicle could actually achieve this, claiming this vehicle could go a little bit quicker even yet. So, more to come. And that's all there was that I thought was worth talking about for this edition of Motor Cars Enthusiasts. Don't forget to like us over on the Facebook page. Links down in the show notes. Also, if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, you can do so at any time. Get the first dibs on the brand new shows as soon as they come out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again real soon.